We have been working together for a couple of weeks. You
Yes.
were on the HCG protocol, spiraling down the vortex of Crazy Train. You've had a ton of success on the HCG protocol in terms of weight loss. In terms of the actual, when you follow it, it flipping works. And however, to recap, you went to a clinic that was stricter than Dr. Simeon's. And
That is correct.
and after, so it makes you even more insane, just because you're isolating yourself from food to a degree that it triggers some of the primal response to eating. They didn't give you a way to transition off other than, okay, work yourself out and weigh yourself and make sure you don't gain the weight. It's all great, right? You ended up regaining well over 60 pounds back, right? You lost 60, regained 60-ish.
It's closer to 40, but sure. Who cares about the numbers?
Okay, well, I mean, it's, yeah, keep me accurate here. I thought it was 60. 40 pounds. So you, on top of that, you are in the medical field and you're surrounded by people who are very judgy McJudgerpants around people overweight. I mean, that's a real thing. There's studies and statistics around weight stigma in hospitals. In the medical field. Anyway, so you've really had a back and forth response to this process. Going between, I can't do this anymore. You've been dieting for most of your life, correct? And you've reached out for help. You've anyway, so you're getting to the point where you just cannot do it anymore. The HCG protocol probably made your situation a lot worse, but in terms of your eating issues. However, it also brought you to seeing the issues that you've probably always had. It just brought it to the forefront.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, so here we are. So we talked on Friday, and it was a we need to talk session.
Yeah.
This would be a session that I often find. I often have these sessions. You're not the only client that I've had where it is brutal. You are having a fit. It's a hard place to be, because you feel bloated. You're probably still overeating, but yet you're not dieting. You're backed into that corner where you don't want to diet anymore, but you still hate your body, still feel bad about it. And now because you have all the anxiety with food, you're physically getting fatter. You can feel it, especially after doing a round of the protocol. And it created that, what I call withdrawal. I believe it's a withdrawal symptom. You know, there's rage, anger, skin's crawling, your whole body saying, turn away and run, hide, do something. And I'm directing you to first accept your weight, which you're at the time feeling disgusted by. You had said you were doing great until you saw yourself in the mirror, and then it was like, oh my God. And then it just really took a turn for the worst in terms of facing this. And so when we talked on Friday, it was intense. How would you describe it?
It was horrible. It's a horrible place. It's just a horrible, scary place. You don't know what to do. You're disgusted. You're upset. You're
enraged.
You're sad. You're pissed off. You're everything. You're just in a horrible blah place because you're just like, I don't want to be here. I never wanted to be here, and now I'm here, and I'm just looking at this and saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything about this.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay then.
Well, you were kind of stuck, and we had to talk thoroughly through that victim position and some of the issues you were having. And I don't know if what I said really made an impact, but we had to go step by step through how to get through it, which is you've got to be humble. You have to really you have to set down all your weapons. You have to stop fighting, and you have to be willing to give this up. So part of the issue a lot of people have is that they come to me and they don't necessarily want to do what I'm telling them to do, but they have to, but you realize I have to. So there is a step, I went through it as well in my recovery, where you feel victimized by the fact that I have to do this. Even though you know you have to do it, it feels like I'm being punished. I'm being, my life sucks that I have to do it. And you were there and you didn't quite see it. And we had to like, look, this is where you're at. And you have to be willing. You have to say, I want to stop. I want to give this up because I don't want to have all this damage. So in the end, I have to accept this. So I can sit here and be all pissed off and victimized by it in my own self and the fact that I have to visibly be a failure. It's like a visible failure to a system. So everybody notices, right? You have to get to the point where you would rather that than to continue to be a slave to that system, right? To continue to suffer. So you're backed into the corner and you get to the point where the side that is holding you hostage, which is the shame and judgment about being overweight or being obese, you have to surrender and go into that.
Yep.
And go through the grieving process. To do that, you have to give up that martyr and victim position. You have to get yourself to be able to say, I am not victimized because I am getting freedom. This is my cost for freedom. So I can't be feeling sorry for myself in the end if I want that freedom. If I don't want to suffer anymore. I want freedom to think about other things in my life. I want freedom from feeling bad. If I want freedom, you have to, in the word you used at the end of the last session, it really took a good hour to get to the last half hour that we talked about. And you had said, you had made some realizations by the end. You said, Robin, I have to be indifferent. And I said, I love that word, indifferent. And you had made
indifferent to the exterior.
Yeah, you're like, I got to get to where I had said, yes, it's like when I described being blind to it. And you said, because you have to not care either way. I was like, she's reached the level of enlightenment. You hit it. The information just came to you. You all of a sudden had that knowledge. It's like you could have heard me say it in a YouTube video a bazillion times. You got to get to the place where you don't care about thinness or fatness and anything in between. I say it all the time.
I can't care. Like, the thing is, it's like I have to, like, literally not give a crap about either way. Like, if I put on 50 pounds or lost 50 pounds, it shouldn't matter because it still matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have value. It's just the external.
It's a choice to not be identified by those numbers and by other people's perceptions of it. So once you have recovered, what happens is you realize that if I internalize the value of thinness, I'm screwed. That means I now have to do something about it. Now I have to keep it. Now I have to be defensive about it. Whereas if I can accept a body that is an absolute visible failure to this system, okay? And I'm okay with that because in exchange for the freedom of this misery, it's a better situation. Even if you get diabetes, it's like, I'd rather still have diabetes than to go back into that insanity. You know, you get to where it release you are no longer willing to fight for the other side of it either, because you can see at this point that ultimately that is why you have shame about your body in the first place. That's the actual source of the problem. You wouldn't feel this bad about yourself or your weight if you didn't believe in thin supremacy. That's the addiction, is the idea that thinness will bring you that feeling of adequacy And it's that compensation that we were just texting about. That it is an absolute
100%.
compensation. It's like a self-control. It's like your one religion to make up for how you failed the other ones, if you want to call it that.
100%.
For me, it was literal. I failed my literal religion. Felt like such a piece of shit relative to that my way of trying to compensate, we can talk about brain chemistry. You're trying to, it's that balance between the negative response in the brain trying to create equilibrium to survive, right? So I gravitated, my coping mechanism was my body image, that I can feel good about this. And so when you look at, and here's the thing too, I love that all of a sudden this knowledge is coming to you. This is what you have to do to get to the underlying issues. You have to stop running from your fear. And you have to face it. And when you face your fear, there is a story in it. There is information in your fear.
Yep.
It's an incredible thing to experience, because it as you sit in your fear, it's almost like it unravels. And the information you get, you're like, oh, well, no wonder. There's a story. It makes sense. It's no longer as impulsive, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I first spoke to you, I thought I was insane. And I don't know if I'm still not insane, but there's a little bit of legitimacy to the insanity today, as opposed to when I spoke to you about 3 weeks ago. Because I feel that, like I said earlier, that what I was dealing with was that it was I was using this weight loss to be the physical embodiment of my value on the planet. And I have been sabotaging that. Which sounds completely crazy.
Well, but it doesn't, partly too, because what you're using, you got to remember, and I texted you and said to remember the conversation about the hierarchy of needs. When it comes to food, your thin supremacy in terms of the third hierarchy of need, your compensation there to try to feel like you're a lovable human is not, it is a need to feel lovable. It's just a lesser priority than food. So when it comes to the pleasures of food, you're going to lose. Meaning you're going to win with pleasures of food, but it's always a temporary thing. So it's kind of like that, the way that I need to be able to verbalize this in a way that's easier to understand. So I'm going to try right now. It's a very dysfunctional codependent relationship with the diet industry that creates the sabotage. Because the diet industry takes responsibility for the damages. You can always get fixed. So whatever damages you create, because you want to fulfill that first hierarchy of need in this moment. I want freedom to just relax around food, and I want freedom to use food too when I feel strain in my other life with my other issues. You've got to have a way to get rid of the damages. So the diet industry plays a huge part of that relationship that you had that was dysfunctional with food. It enables you to have these dysfunctional relationships with other parts of your life too. You know, one of the common things that I see is when someone feels, again, they take on the victim position. You may notice it in other areas now that you kind of have an awareness of what that is. They tend to use food to feel better about it. So my work environment is super stressful. My kids aren't being easy. I'm fighting with my husband. You know, those things put a strain on your perfectionism around a diet. Right? So your sabotage could, and you're the one who knows the story better than I would. But look at your, how maybe the need for food may have been magnified because you always felt I can always lose the weight and fix whatever happens right now. At some point, the diet will take responsibility for it. So I don't never really have to face my real issues. these issues you have
Robin,
underneath.
That's what I'm telling you. That's where the sabotage is.
Yeah.
As you get to your goal, the ability to hide behind the premise that the problem is the weight goes away. And what's left is that big, nasty, ugly vault of every other problem that you suppressed and swept under the rug over the years. And that rug that is now 40 feet tall is staring you in the face.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the pressure, too, once you start losing the weight, right? The pressure. Because now all of a sudden, you can't fail anything. So you don't have any lenience in any way. So it pressurizes your fear of being judged, rejected, abandoned. But it's that fear of people knowing you really are a shitty person inside. That inner feeling of suck that you've had, that you're using body image to compensate for. And there's other things you probably use to compensate. Granted, body image typically for women can be huge. Like a lot of eggs are in that basket, right? To fail at thinness oftentimes can be, it's like, that's the proof that I really suck. So I'm going to sabotage to not get too thin to make sure that I don't have the pressure so that I have some lenience somewhere in my life. Yeah. Somewhere. Yeah.
Somewhere else. Well, at least, I can't get this weight off, you know?
Can you see where the diet industry then is an important tool for you? Because they give you a sense of some type of boundary. Like, I don't want to get too big because then it's really bad. But I don't want to get too thin because then I really have to prove that I'm perfect. And I don't know how to do it. You know, it's like it's exposing.
Too hard.
Well, it really exposes that underneath it all, you really can't handle this. You're not as good as you think you are. So yeah. So that is a great conversation right there in terms of why when people who live their life overweight or obese, why when they lose weight, their binges go up. And even if they aren't feeling deprived physically, right? Because you've noticed too, I'm not really that hungry.
No.
That's what I find across the board. And the more body fat someone has, the less hunger they tend to feel. So that goes down to that science of leptin, you know, which is so weird because if you read other science, they say they have leptin resistance. And I want you to question that. Have you read any of that?
Yes, I have.
It's like, for real, like, if they had leptin resistance, they'd have chronic hunger. But in reality, is it really chronic hunger, or is it that constant drive to eat because you're chronically depriving? Because once people get...
You're suppressing your own hormonal tendencies.
Yeah, with your mind.
Yes.
So you have it's not real hunger. They don't experience real hungry. You know, and so it really makes me question. It's like these people that are talking about leptin resistance need to talk to real people who understand how this works. Because it's you may have...
I feel it. I feel it right now. I'm heavier than I was when we started talking.
Yeah.
And now that I live in abundance and don't feel compelled, I don't have that compulsion anymore to binge. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry as often as I was. I'm not hangry either.
And you're not thinking about food. That's a big thing too. It's not just the physical, like, oh wow, I don't have the same drive to eat, but it's not in my head. I don't have the heady drive.
Yes.
To where I'm constantly like, I should be able to eat, I need to eat, I should be eating, or I can't eat, I shouldn't be eating. It's
I have to plan my meals because, I have to do this. I have to get all my meals in. I have to figure out what I'm going to eat today. I got to pack my lunch. I got to pack my dinner.
Yeah, and Robin, why am I eating this? I shouldn't be eating that. Oh my God, that's so terrible for me. Oh my God, I'm such a failure. Oh my God, I suck. What the hell? I might as well eat the rest of it. Robin sucks. I
That's
can't
right.
believe I have to eat these. And she told me, I mean, it's just like weird anxiety. That's what that is. You might not have known that before. You were in fight or flight with food, didn't even know it.
Yep.
Because that's how you're supposed to be. That's supposed to be really healthy for you. You need to be concerned about food so that you are safe from it. That to me is just like people who are in that system have no conscious clue. And you are a doctor, you are highly educated, right? Extremely educated. You, in terms of the human body, human physiology, granted it's not human psyche, but fight or flight, basic, fundamental endocrinology. When you look at and when you look at how the body responds, you don't even know you're living in it. You lived in it. For how long were you living in that?
Oh my God, forever.
Decades?
Yeah.
20 years?
Forever. 20 years.
Not even knowing it. And then when it's projected onto food, holy crap, right? I mean, that's like a deep primal response you're going to lose against. There's no winning against that.
Well, it's like saying you need to, manage your oxygen intake.
Yeah, or sleep. It's like this, it's like saying, in order for you to prove that that you are an amazing person, amazing people who are like really kick-ass workers, they only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and they can handle it, and they can go, and they're super successful. And so what they're saying to you is, you should only sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. And if you sleep more than that, you're lazy. So taking something...
Well, you've got a deficiency. You've got a problem.
Yeah. Like you're lazy and you must be addicted to sleep if you sleep more than that. Right? It's taking something like sleep and super controlling it to prove that you're an adequate human being or that you're healthy if you only need 4 hours of sleep, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, no.
You're vilifying a natural urge. That's what
vilifying
it is. Vilifying a natural function in your body.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Which when you believe, okay, so this is where it becomes, you can't see it. If you believe and are convinced, well, that's right. Look at all the successful people in the world and how little they sleep. I want to be successful. And you attach success, that fantasy or the symbolism of success as a mammal. This is our third hierarchy of need, tribal desire to be lovable, right? You attach that lovability to, I'm going to use lack of sleep to prove it. You wouldn't question, why do I fall asleep in the afternoon? You would think that means that I suck, because I shouldn't need to have to sleep in the afternoon. So you don't question why you're having sleeping problems.
Well, clearly I'm a failure.
Right?
Get it together.
Again, it's like saying, cool people only urinate once a day. And you get this because when you look at the human body, most of it functions without our consciousness.
Exactly.
It doesn't need us to control it for it to work. In fact, the brain is meant to function mostly with us thinking about other things. And it responds, of course, to our thoughts. It responds to our perceptions of threat, right? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to do that, but the body isn't sitting there going, she's irrational, and I'm not going to respond to that. That would be great if the brain had she's living in a lie filter. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, So if you think food is threatening, holy crap, you're hitting that foundation of our psyche, that foundation of our need, which is food to survive. And it responds as it should. So that fear, that anxiety with food, that's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with that mechanism, right? That mechanism is really important if we were having to live off of the land eating plants that might kill us.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking water that's got bacteria or problems in it. I mean, we would want to have that type of anxiety and fight or flight and that perfectionistic micromanagement. It would really serve our body to have it. But you're having that magnified inflammatory response to food just with everything.
Yeah, it's with everything.
Mm-hmm. And can you see where the diet industry that sells you this shit, that's what they're doing.
It's not a panacea. It's really not. It's not. We have to, wake up. I see it. I see it now.
You see it now.
I see it now.
You see it now, yeah. Yeah, and this is where when people say, Robin, but I need to lose weight for health. I'm like, well, what you don't realize is your desire to lose weight, even if it's for health, that's brainwashing right there. That's what they want you to do. Makes trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars.
So here's my thing. I do believe that we need to take care of ourselves and do the right things for ourselves so that we try to avoid disease.
You say that thinking that we really know how to do that.
We don't.
We don't. No.
I mean, you're supposed to follow there's a lot of, if you, look outside of traditional medicine. I'm in traditional medicine, but if you look at, Ayurvedic medicine or different types of medicine, in Ayurveda, what they say is that the body, if left to do what it needs to do, will take care of itself. And they totally believe that in Ayurveda. And what they do is that the whole principle of the doshas in Ayurveda is to balance what your imbalances are. You need to identify where your imbalances are and counterbalance that, for example. That's their thinking over there.
Yes, but hold on a second. And I would absolutely agree with everything you just said. The issue here is when you think you're going to do it. I think, let me say it this way. When you say I need to do this for my health, what you're essentially saying is, most people, what they're saying is, my body is unhealthy.
What I'm talking about is completely different than the external chubby that you see.
To me, that is healthy. Right? We could say that is absolutely healthy. It's an indication the body is responding healthily to its environment.
Yeah. I mean, I've had patients that are overweight, even obese. Blood pressure is perfect. Heart rate is perfect. Body cholesterol is perfect. The ratio of the cholesterol is perfect. They have no lung disease. They don't have diabetes. They haven't had a stroke. They don't have cancer. So by modern health, these overweight people are healthy.
Correct. And then they're told, because of it goes back to the insurance companies in the 1940s, that they need to do something as if they are already diseased. And then what happens to their brain?
Yes, then they become stressed out about that.
And then what's the likelihood then, especially when it comes to losing body fat, that they are absolutely going to be the cause of the stress to the body that creates the problems?
150%.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, as soon as someone, this is an important conversation, because as soon as someone says, I need to do this so that my body can be healthy, you are saying that you are necessary for the body to be healthy, as if it is inherently unhealthy. And we have to do something to make it healthy. That ultimately is a huge, huge problem.
100%.
This is, to me, a very similar psyche to saying you are spiritually inadequate. God, you're the devil to start. And you need to do all this work to make sure that you are an acceptable spirit to God. So you are inherently shitty spirit. You can't handle it. You're going to murder people unless we teach you not to murder people. right?
I mean, dear God, Robin, we also have people that are maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, men or women, who come in with a milieu of medical problems, but they 8% body fat. I mean,
correct.
They inject drugs. They smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Okay, so I have a friend who's trying to get pregnant right now, and she's super lean, and her doctor's like, you're not going to get pregnant unless you gain some weight. She's having issues with that.
She doesn't even have enough.
She's not healthy in terms of how she's thinking about her body's health, to the point that whatever she's doing for her health is making her ovaries less functional, right? So it's this concept of health to me is such an awesome capitalistic thing because we can create problems and make billions, hundreds of billions, if not trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on the idea of disease. It's been going on since the 1940s. And not questioning how it impacts someone's relationship with their body. How they relate and feel safe in their body, right? So it isn't black and white per se. Like if I'm going to be smoking, my risks of damaging my lungs and my system are very high, right? So it's not to say that you should just keep on smoking and then believe that the body is healthy and can handle it. So I'm going to test the fuck out of it until it says I can't handle it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm talking specifically about is the overreach of health, the concept of health, the overreach. What you're essentially saying is the body cannot be healthy without my control.
I really feel that a lot of times if we stop thinking so hard about what our body does naturally, it will correct itself because the body thrives in homeostasis.
It's already working. It worked through, you wouldn't, if it didn't work, you wouldn't have made it through pregnancy. You wouldn't have made it through labor and delivery with your mother. It wouldn't have worked. You wouldn't have been able to breathe on your own. You wouldn't have been able to, your ears and all of the functions wouldn't have worked. I mean, if it didn't work, right? So, and then when you add to all of the environmental changes that we're putting it through, and it's adapting. This is where I'm like, your body fat is actually healthy. It's a sign the body is adapting to the environment that you're placing it in. Years of chronic fight or flight paranoia and anxiety with food. Okay? It has done a great job responding to that.
It has.
So the idea that we have to do this for health, you have to always question where that's coming from. So for me, I do yoga because I have a spine, my discs, I have a bulging disc and a herniated disc that I track back to labor and delivery with my first daughter. Okay. Plus all of the years of athletic training and just kicking the shit out of my body with volleyball and track and field. And then the period of my life where I abused the crap out of my body on a freaking step mill for 2 hours trying to burn as many calories as I could. That period of my life, I think, created a lot of damage. Okay? And today I do yoga to remove some pain. I don't do it because I need to prove my worth. I don't do it because I'm trying to be healthy. I do it because I have pain, chronic pain.
It's medicinal for you.
Correct.
It's medicinal.
And I
agree 100%.
And in the process of yoga, I am not forcing poses to prove that I'm flexible. I'm not, I'll go to a yoga class and I'll sit in the back of the class and I'm not willing to push beyond a certain point to prove that I'm competing with the lady in front that's doing a handstand with her amazing athletic clothes and her loud breathing. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter to me. She can win. She wins the yoga ego competition. I'm going to sit in back.
I'm dying right now. This is me every class.
Right? And I'm going to just focus real intently on keeping my hips square. Because if I cannot keep my hips square, I'm going to more than likely put too much stress on the L4-5 disc that is herniated.
That is 100% correct.
So
using an activity for what it's supposed to be used for. Great. That's right.
this is the difference. Doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and go, well, my back should heal itself if I was healthy, and I'm going to just keep on doing what I'm doing. There is a balance point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with that comes a ton of lenience and grace. So if I don't get yoga in, do I feel like I'm a bad person and I'm causing harm to my body because I didn't do my stretches today? I should, no.
No, unless you can't walk and then you're like, damn it, I should have went to yoga.
Right. Yes, but it doesn't affect, I don't use it as proof that I suck. Yet again, I'm a sucky person. Nope.
Yep.
I am not identified by the body. Doesn't mean I'm not willing to try to humble myself down to what it needs in the present moment. I don't feel punished by it. That's the other thing. If you take on that martyr position, someone with these ailments would be like, I have back pain and it hurts and it takes all my energy. It zaps my energy. It affects me. I have to constantly move. I feel it with everything I do and it's really terrible. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I say these things because I think what happens when you're stuck in that trying to fight for your freedom and you're in flight and fight and you're in those places of I want to live a better life and my life sucks, that oftentimes it predisposes you to have that position.
Mm-hmm.
And the willingness to just accept reality. So this is kind of where you're at this point. You're having to surrender willingly. The willingness to surrender the game and to say, I failed. It's not because of lack of effort. It's not because I wasn't obsessed enough. It wasn't because I didn't study hard enough. It wasn't because I didn't work my tail off. In fact, the opposite is true. You did so much trying to feel better about yourself and your life that you friggin' are a doctor. That you think, look at all the shit that you've done in your lifetime just to try to fix this. So when you realize that if this is if I'm failing with all of this, do I really want what they're selling? That is, do I want to have to do what they sell will make me successful?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't necessarily want that success anymore. I'd rather live in my reality at this point.
It's like the lady in the yoga studio saying, you win.
And because you're no longer, you're okay with failure. See, this is where it's like in every sense. I'm okay blending in. I'm okay even if I don't blend in and I'm the person in the back that looks like I've got problems. Someone that is competitive would be like, I'm not even noticeable. See, that's the thing. The narcissism would be like, everybody's looking at how like gimpy I am. I'm a gimp in here and everybody can see me. That's the narcissism, right? But you realize that I don't even give a shit. You become blended into the picture. And it becomes this very intrinsic, centered, no pressure, no stress, no need to perform. You start to stay present. There's this presence that I call it the bubble, my bubble. I'm staying in my bubble. So why go out into the future or even going into the past? It's like, I presently am dealing with a herniated disc and a bulging disc. That's my present. Why even go back to the past and get pissed off at myself? It doesn't make sense. It's not going to change anything. I am presently, this is it. This is my ailment. Right? This is my ailment. Can I handle it? Yeah, I could live the rest of my life with this and I'd be so grateful. Right? Because we can, so that keeps me from feeling victimized by it.
Yep.
I mean, it's been 15 years of this stabbing pain. So, when you surrender all of the narcissism, the coping mechanism, when you become inferior and you are okay with it, this is the part that's like when you stop running away from the fear of inferiority, you end up going into being inferior and questioning it. Am I really inferior?
Sure.
Go into your realness. This is like going into the child. Go into the reality of like your heart, your integrity, your intentions, really it's the heart of yourself. That's the part of you that's real, okay, versus the facade, which is everything you've been trying to create. Goes into the heart of your integrity, goes beyond the way you look, goes beyond the house you're in, goes beyond the financials, the debts and the failures. And you could look back and go, where did this feeling of I'm a piece of shit come from? And you can realize for me, it came from, feeling like the lowest person in my family below the dog, thinking that I'm an annoying person. I'm dumb, just that. And those beliefs for me came from the real sense of inadequacy. And it could be that maybe we could talk about my mom didn't breastfeed me long enough. I mean, we could go and like for reals break this down psychologically, but what's that going to do? Nothing. So you just have to go into, okay, I had a sense of inferiority and I've been feeling this since I was a toddler. So the question is it true? You never question the truth of that inferiority. Is it true? To the heart.
Why did I even accept that as inferiority? Like that's the other question. Why did I accept whatever it is that I perceived to be inferior? Why did I just blindly accept that?
No, you just never questioned it.
Yeah.
But so why? We don't even need to know why you didn't question it. Let's just question it right now. If you look at your heart and soul, the truth of you've had this truth since the day you were born. Have you really intended to hurt anybody?
Of course not.
Well, go into your heart. This is like, are you a mean person intentionally? No. For me, it was like, I just want rainbows and fun. I just want to like sing and dance. I want to feel like I want to have a party in my lifetime. I want my life to feel like a party. Like there's this energy, right? I want to have fun. I want to have fun on a slip and slide. I don't need to have like a mega, water park.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the innocent. It's just so innocent. Like I'm innocent, and when you do that for yourself, I think the word innocent is really important. I went into my heart and soul and for the first time ever said, I'm innocent.
Wow.
Changed everything. It changes a lot. Even with failure, and the failure is relative to the systems. Even if I suck at religion, even if I suck at being an awesome sibling, like I don't, even if I'm not seen in my family of 10, even if I blend into the background and I'm not important and I don't get the attention, like all those things, I'm innocent. I don't need attention anymore, right? I don't need to prove myself anymore because there's nothing that I've done wrong.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Correct? Right? So you look at yourself from that. That's the compassion. There is this compassion that for the first time you give yourself. And all of a sudden, the need to get it from others just goes away. It just goes away. Because you're the only one that really knows the truth. Like, I'm a good flippin' person. So if I'm not thin enough, if I'm not smart enough, if I'm not dressed well enough, if I don't have the right friends, if I'm not in the right group, if I don't listen to the right music, if I'm not in the right religion, all those things don't matter. because I'm leading with my heart now. And if that's inferior, I'm okay with us. So you go into the inferiority.
You go into it. There's it's very interesting. Bring this up. My dad used to say this always. He used to say that of my 4 girls, Aisha is the prettiest. Aisha and Nadia. Aisha and Adriana are the prettiest. Nadia is the smartest. May is none of those, but she tries very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the proclaimed attributes that my father gave all of us at one point. So
can you see why you have fought as hard as you have fought?
Because that's what I was told. I try harder. I'm none of those things, but I try really hard. You know?
Yeah. Well, and it's understandable because you just wanted to felt like you had something of value to your tribe, something as close as your father. You know, these are really important relationships that mold how your brain functions relative to your tribe and your pack. So knowing what you know too about your father, you know, because you can see his innocence. He didn't know what he was doing, and he had no idea it was going to impact you this way. If he knew that this was the impact it was going to make, he would have never had evaluated you guys this way. He wouldn't have said a word. Right?
I hope not.
Well, go into your own innocence and realize that no human being knows really what they're doing. He didn't know what he was doing when he said that.
Honestly, he didn't know what he was doing.
No.
And that's why now you can look back on it and go, okay, that's just an opinion.
That's
in
just
that point in time.
Yeah, that's basically a projection of how he evaluates girls. He may have been a misogynist.
Yes, he didn't understand how crazy the words that are coming out of his mouth are.
No, and how hurtful you interpreted them. How you positioned yourself relative to that.
Unfortunately, it took my lifetime up until now to understand that you know, as somebody nowadays would say, cool story, bro.
Cool story. Well, it makes this. There is a story behind your anger the other day on Friday.
Yeah.
And why it was feeling so horrific for you to let it go. Because it's
because I've been trying to fix it. I always work really hard to overcome things. That's the shield and the sword that I carry. Like I'm the hard worker.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I'm putting it down.
Right. Well, and then when you look at, if you are validating yourself, again, going back to I'm innocent. If you were to go back in time and experience that conversation again, you would be like, "Oh, Dad, you're so sweet." Pat him on the head. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't understand the intrinsic. He was extrinsically evaluating you girls just from the outside. He didn't necessarily have a sense of his worth intrinsically either. So if you don't have a sense of that, how are you to evaluate your own tribe intrinsically? So it was really just a projection of the superficiality of what he was judged by and what he saw his mom and sisters judged by. I mean, look at the difference in culture too, you know? Mm-hmm. So you are coming now to a place of, I am an innocent, lovable person internally, you know? And if you are there with that, how influential, if you could have felt this as a child, how influential would his words have been?
I would have just forgiven him for it and
as it happened. Yeah, and you just recognized he just doesn't know yet. He just can't see it yet. Maybe he does, but he doesn't know how to verbalize it. He doesn't know how to verbalize that I'm funny and that I'm fun to be with, that I'm easygoing. He didn't say any of that because he doesn't know it. He doesn't see it. He doesn't have that depth.
Yep. And it's interesting that you say that now, because nowadays, as I look at my older father, and sometimes he says some outlandish things, and I will just look at him and chuckle and pat him on the head, as you mentioned, and say, "Aw."
He just doesn't, there comes a point where you progress beyond your parents' awareness, right? Because you're the one dealing with the consequences of their parenting. And we as parents, as you would agree, we don't know what the hell we're doing. So we're making mistakes. We don't even know we're making mistakes with our kids. I don't know what I've said at any point.
We're faking it until we make it.
Right? I'm screwing my kids up. I don't know it yet until they come back with their problems.
100%.
So with that said, my goal is that my kids get beyond me. This is evolution. This is how the human species survives in newer climates and changing environments, right? Like my parents, if they used the way of thinking that was there in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, they wouldn't survive this. You can't survive this environment with the 1950s and 60s types of thinking.
Nope.
So they can judge our generation all they want, but they're just stuck in 50 years ago.
Yep.
Right? And at some point we have to go, oh, you're just assuming it's still 1955.
You're so cute.
Yes. And because they don't get it. They just don't know because they didn't grow up in the age of computers and cell phones. And we're, as parents, probably going to do the same thing to our kids. The goal is that because if we're aware, we're going to assume they have to adapt to their environment the way that they're adapting. And it's probably different than the way I adapted to my environment because my environment was different. So I'm going to assume they know way more than me, and I'm going to let them do it. That's like psychological yoga. Not easy.
No.
So, you have to take 100% responsibility for your worth. And you have to take that responsibility away from the superficial ideals of our culture and your parents and your husband's opinion. And you have to really have a root. Okay, you have to create your own, think of yourself as a tree. You have to be responsible for the main root in yourself. Instead of living off of your branches, trying to grasp stability. It's not going to work. There has to be you can call it a soul root in yourself, and it comes from yourself. It doesn't come from society. It doesn't come from your siblings, your parents, your husband, your children even. It's a sense of worth and validity in your life. That my life, I am alive, that at least we're consciously aware of. The body is providing it for me. It's a gift. And I have a soul purpose. And I'm not to sit here and waste my time figuring out how to control my body. That's not my purpose. Purpose is to listen to it, go pee when I gotta go pee, eat when I gotta go eat. Thank God that I have food available and that I have the freedom to not have to fixate on harvesting food every freaking summer.
Yeah.
We don't have to be concerned about seeds. Granted, in the back of my mind, I'm like, should we be taking seeds and putting them in storage? That's the Mormon in me. That's the Mormon in me. I need to work on, and I do. I have canning, and I could keep on doing that. Right?
I make canning now. It's October.
Right? So we have all of this energy and time right now to really explore our humanness.
Yeah.
Humanity. We have so much rich. Why are we compensating to this degree? Well, it's because our culture is making billions and trillions of dollars on this whole survival mechanism.
Because they fucking lie.
Well, they're making money and power, and so, But as soon as you see it, for what it is, it makes you kind of laugh. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like, oh my God, they really think.
You can't unsee it. Once you finally see it, you
can't unsee it. And it's hard to be manipulated after the fact. So the next time you see a weight loss commercial or something online that says the new study, this food is going to kill you, you're going to just go, okay, there may be some truth to that, but it's the fact that they're using such fear mongering is a sign that they really just want power over what I'm doing. They're making money on it. They're making money. They're getting likes. They're selling a book. They're selling a product. They're probably selling supplements. And they want you to have the fear drive because that's what makes the decision to consume. It's a brilliant capitalistic system. It works awesome, but it has massive psychological consequences. Massive.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. And so we live in this insane abundance, and there's no absolute reason in reality for you to have fight or flight with every fucking thing you do. Okay? Chill out, right?
I need to save my cortisol for when I get chased by a dinosaur.
You got it. When a bear occurs, when someone's got a gun and they're coming at you, save it for that.
Yep.
That equals reality. That's like, oh, that response now matches.
That makes sense.
Right? If you're being handed cyanide, maybe you shouldn't eat it. That response matches. Or some type of, you know what I mean? Like, then maybe you should go, this bitter taste I should probably stop eating this fruit. This is where it's like we're an ancient species living in an environment that is so beyond gluttonously, massively rich. Don't let it distort your perception of reality, because that's the other thing. You've been distorted into believing that as a human being, for you to be loved and liked and not die, because that's how the brain responds, is you have to be thin, you have to be a doctor, you have to have all the money, and you got to be able to do this and that, and you got to be smart, and you always be on point,
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And you brought that to these sessions, by the way. Last session, I had to tell you, you need to take the I have to be right. You need to turn it off. Right? You were still fighting to try to survive, and I had to get you to surrender it. There was layers of real fight or flight coming into this process, and I understand that. This is not easy to surrender. It feels the brain is sending you messages of you're going to die. That's how it's supposed to work. It just, you, and even if you rationally, and this is where we had talked too about, intellect isn't going to matter when it comes to this. There's no degree of intellect that is going to keep you from fight or flight. If the brain says, I'm going to die, your intellect gets hijacked by that feeling.
Yeah.
So there's no amount of me teaching you and the logic that goes into this. I mean, some of that helps so that you don't feel so crazy. It absolutely helps you understand it, but when it comes down to the actual process of doing it, it takes that humility. It takes that you have to be willing to fail and not feel victimized by it. That is like that degree. There's a degree of suffering you have to get through to be willing to do it, right? The suffering has to be big enough. And then it really requires the humility of accepting inadequacy. That's hard. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, that's hard.
Oh, it goes against our wiring. That's the part that goes against our actual evolutionary psychology. I'm asking you to do what your brain is telling you not to do, which is accept dying, accept inadequacy, accept rejection and abandonment. That's the opposite of how our brains have been conditioned over billions of years, right? So, but once you do it, you become desensitized, right? So we could say you were sensitive, like crazy sensitive to the point where food became the threat. And, so the only way to change that chemical reaction in the brain is to stop responding to it. And to stop responding to it, if we talk consciously, you have to accept those impulses instead of running from them. Right? And then in doing so, your brain is forced to change its route, right? And and in terms of like fear and anxiety and death, it's like if you're willing to go that direction, it becomes less. You become less. You start to question it more instead of just impulsively responding to it. You become more intelligent about. It's almost like, oh, when I have that feeling, I'm going to question it next time. Where before it was just impulsive. It was like that mammal impulsivity to just run. You don't sit there and go, why do I have that feeling? But that'll happen from now on. You're going to start going, what's going on here? What am I afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of being judged because I've done that before, right? Now you have a recollection of, so it's almost like changing your brain reaction intentionally.
Yeah.
Isn't this fascinating?
It's really fascinating.
I know.
That my brain is starting to comprehend the words that you have been saying all along now.
Well, from an emotional viewpoint. Before you were understanding it from the intellect.
Yes.
Which is the mind, right? That's the mind that says 1 + 1 is 2.
Yes, it's a different place. I never not heard the words you were saying. I just couldn't appreciate and accept it inside.
Yeah, because it was affecting the deeper part of the brain, that primal part of the brain. The primal part of the brain said, nope, don't look at it. Nope. Right?
Nope. This doesn't jive well with me.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of times people go, but what about my health? But what about this? Robin, but you can't just deny all that science. Blah, blah, blah. That's like that fight response. That's the brainwashing too. Those are the things that you believe that keep you hostage, right?
You've never ever told me to go out and seek unhealthy habits either.
Nope.
You've never told me to say, okay, you may not be on the ABC diet anymore, but I would like you to go and participate in life-ending experiences.
Right. But that's what it feels like. I love that you just said that, because you're laughing at this point because that's what it feels like I'm saying, because of how crazy, strict, and distorted your ideals were.
You told me to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It doesn't rack up there with, crack cocaine. It's a little different.
Yeah, but the diet industry is equating it to crack cocaine.
It is.
And you never questioned that, right? So it's like it's really just about trying to untwist your cognitive distortion around food, because you've been brainwashed to believe crackers are diabetes. When you eat a cracker, you need to feel diabetes. That is a technique, by the way, that I have actually heard. I worked with a nutritionist, PhD nutritionist, that would do that.
What?
Yes. There's a reason why she came to me for help.
100%.
And in the end, I don't think she could give up her orthorexia.
I told you this as well. There is a point that you can get to, and that's what I felt actually when we spoke last. That I was at the threshold here of either trusting what my gut instinct tells me to trust and just go through this door, or turn around and get another round of HCG and like hit the gym super duper hard because I'm not that far gone. I can fix this. It's only going to take like 6 weeks. I'll be fine, and we're done here. And then I don't have to deal with what's inside this, crossing the threshold and getting into this room that I didn't want to enter.
Yeah, that's the point at which you realize I can, if I don't face this, it's going to be here again. I remember that so clearly. I went through the same process in my head. Here are my options. I can escape. I can go through another cycle. But at some point, I'm going to be right here again. Right here.
And then I said, absolutely not.
Well, you realize I have to face this. I don't have a choice.
I'm done now.
And I can't afford to be a victim because this is what I have to do to stop. So I can sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I can do what I have to do if I want freedom. So
thank you, liberty.
I would rather, and you get to and then you go into, and I remember saying, you need to visualize your life fat. Can I handle it? Get a sense of it. Face what you're afraid of and breathe it in your lungs and think about it. Just think about life in this body. That's something that you would have cringed to do before. It's like, I don't want to look at that because someday I'll fix it. Someday, and then you excuse it, right? We talked about the way you get out of the cognitive dissonance is to have some future fix, to have some excuse for it.
Your future you will remedy your present you.
So you don't have to look at it now. And so you're running away from it. Well, it's like hiding under the blankets, So when you really open your mind to your future life in this body. I'm recording. Can you guys stop? Sorry.
No worries.
Everybody's waking up. We didn't have this scheduled anyway. So
no, it wasn't scheduled.
But this is worth recording, okay? I lost my freaking train of thought. Hold on a second. Oh, when you go into your mind's eye and you actually think about your life this way with the freedom and without feeling victimized, all of a sudden it becomes indifferent. Yeah. I'm indifferent because the benefit of the freedom outweighs the problem.
Yep.
All of a sudden, this is not the problem. And having freedom, even if you get fatter, the indifference around it is worth it. That's like winning the lottery. What did you say? You said that's like getting a brand new life. I can't remember what you said on Friday when we kind of got to this point where it was like the indifference equates to starting your whole life over again. Because this has been so defining and identifying with this previous life.
It's a new slate. Like, you just get to, like, okay, I get to do it now. Like, up until that moment, I was surviving and compensating and fixing and hiding and justifying. And just, it's so much fucking work. Like, now I just get to, like, and it's still new for me. But I feel like I can just be.
That only comes to you because you've come to just be in this exact body. It's good enough. It's almost like taking what you expect from this body and making it perfect. This is good enough.
Yep.
And I don't want to have to think about it if I lose weight. I don't want to have to think about it if I gain weight. I'm done. It's not a problem. I'm innocent. Awesome. I'm going to stop recording. Thanks for letting me record this.